in a marriage, the ideal goal is to start a family, right? So you breaking up a family due to just feeling like you can trade up, and I think that's ultimately the most selfish thing you can do. Because your duty after you become one is to create new life, and then your duty is for that life to be taken care of by that unit. Anything outside of that is just vanity.
It's no longer confined to the community that you live in, or where you travel to, right? Like, it's, especially if your profile is open to the public, you really have access to anybody at this point, right? And so I think that with social media and the way that people are criticized for the partner that they choose, especially on aesthetics, I think there's this like fear of like, is this the best that I can really do?
Right? But if you're really attractive, if you're somebody who is always getting looked at left and right, you always having to say excuse me because people just roll up to you in the shopping mall and while you're grocery shopping. At some point when you're mad at your partner, it may be hard to resist. Like, you know what? That doctor dude to try to get my number. Let me go. So yeah, I think it's the desire and opportunity always comes the way of more attractive people.
Attractive people are more likely to have their relationship break down, new research has revealed. Beauties are more likely to have shorter relationships or get divorced, according to the people studying this kind this kind of thing at Harvard. They studied how appearance affects the longevity of relationships. If you're if you're hot, you might find it harder to commit. The results showed that better looking people had shorter relationships. So now we know why so many Hollywood actors often notch up several marriages.
So, a young man by the name of Brandon posted this in the chat. But I went and I researched, I went to look to make sure if it was a factual, if there was indeed research, and I did find that to be true. So do you guys, what are your thoughts on that? Not most, but attractive people are more likely to get divorced.
I mean, yeah, I saw that study when it came out as well. I thought that it made perfect sense in this generation that we live
Mhm.
because it correlates directly with all the other information that's out. So women and when you really men that are more attractive have shorter relationships, but women with money also have shorter relationships. So it's like giving someone any extra reason to leave or use against your partner in a way is going to lead to you having a shorter relationship. It's almost like the more bullets you have in the gun, the more likely you are to use them if need be, right? So in the case of attractive women, I think something like that is going to be geared more toward women because you're going to look at, well, she is really, really attractive. She's getting hit on more when she's at the gym without her wedding ring on. So women who get approached more, right? They have what do you call it? Theft. So theft requires two things. It requires desire and opportunity. Some women don't got an opportunity to cheat. Some men damn sure don't have an opportunity to cheat. That's why they don't cheat, right? But if you're really attractive, if you're somebody who is always getting looked at left and right, you always having to say excuse me because people just roll up to you in the shopping mall and while you're grocery shopping. At some point when you're mad at your partner, it may be hard to resist. Like, you know what? That doctor dude to try to get my number. Let me go. So yeah, I think it's the desire and opportunity always comes the way of more attractive people.
And I'm gonna take Hollywood out of the conversation. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
I didn't
say
want her to read that far. It just was
Oh.
on the snap. It's okay. But go ahead.
what I will say is people with more options likely feel like they've always settled, which is why they see the sense to move on to something different because they have the option to, whether it's looks or money, just like Trigger Mike just said. The more options you have, the more likely you feel like if that person's not giving you everything that you want, the easier it is for you to move on to something different. Just short and sweet for me right now.
Now, I just have, when they say beauties, do you think that they're only referring to women, or do you think that they mean in general attractive?
I think
Men
they
both.
mean in
Men or
general.
in general. And what I was going to say, I do agree with that, because kind of like what AP was saying, is that typically when you're attractive, you have much more access to others than when you're, if you're deemed unattractive, so to speak. So I think it provides you with many more options. And because of that, I don't think it makes you feel like you have to stay where you are, because in your mind, I can always do better, or I can replace this one with somebody else much more quickly. So I can understand. I think I, could see where the results of that study are valid.
I think I think it goes for both men and women, right, in terms of attractiveness. But I think that social media has really changed the game on what access looks like. So, your attractive person next door now all of a sudden has access to people all around the world. It's no longer confined to the community that you live in, or, where you travel to, right? Like, it's, especially if your profile is open to the public, you really have access to anybody at this point, right? And so I think that with social media and the way that people are criticized for the partner that they choose, especially on aesthetics, I think there's this like fear of like, is this the best that I can really do? Right. And I think the moment that normal, average, like pain points in relationships come up, because of social media, I think people use it as an out of like, well, I can just go find somebody better. I can go find somebody better looking. I can go find somebody who can take these hashtag couple goals pictures with me. And at least, if nothing else, continue to perpetuate the illusion of the perfect relationship of perfect looking people, right? I think before social media, maybe the best looking people within a community would match up together, because that was the illusion of the best that they could do. But now, with like an unlimited amount of options, I don't know, I think people are refusing to work through their problems and are looking to just settle into something that looks good.
I like
Yeah,
that. Go ahead. Go ahead,
I
Mark.
think selfishness and vanity are like the main things, because I think two people can be attractive, right? And they can be together, and it not be an issue. But when you enter social media in, now they're seeking approval from outside sources, outside the relationship and outside themselves. And it's that constant need for validation that will put you in a space where you start to wonder, could you have done better? Or to insinuate, or you may actually be able to get somebody that you feel is more attractive. But the issue is it's just selfishness, because in a marriage, the ideal goal is to start a family, right? So you breaking up a family due to just feeling like you can trade up. And I think that's ultimately the most selfish thing you can do. Because your duty after you become one is to create new life, and then your duty is for that life to be taken care of by that unit. Anything outside of that is just vanity.
It also stated shorter relationships. I mean, even outside of marriage, just being in relationships, the relationships aren't very long. So
Yeah, people get hit on a lot. I would think if it's fresh, it's easier to get taken about the relationship. So
Mhm.
I could see that, but I would have to know how they quantifying that though. Like what scale are they
so do
rating?
you think that that's why there are a lot of attractive single people?
I think I think that's the reason for women. I wouldn't say that for men though, that y'all might find attractive. Okay, you
You
talking
don't think men take advantage of being attractive?
So
absolutely.
there was a study, and I can't find it right now, but there was a study that was released where um, the more attractive a person is, the less trusting their partner tends to be, right? And they stated the reason for that, and again, we can get to like a debate of the how they collected the data, but the reason that they stated for that was that because beautiful people tend to be more superficial, that there had to be an ulterior motive into getting into an actual committed relationship. right? So whether it was like, we often accuse attractive women of being gold diggers. We often accuse attractive men of being philanderers, right? Like, he's just collecting a harem of women. Um, whether it's finances, status, whatever, right? That there's an ulterior motive outside of actual companionship. And they also surveyed just like average looking people. They didn't survey just attractive people. And again, I don't know how they quantified that. But they did find that like the more attractive you were, the less likely your partner was to actually trust you within the relationship. So to me, it makes perfect sense that these relationships aren't lasting long, because if your partner doesn't trust you, even if you have every intention on committing to that relationship, it's simply not going to last.
I think
Well,
in order to make somebody trust you in that specific scenario, you probably would have to establish a bare naked truth that's hard for a lot of people to even come to terms with being able to discuss. You because a lot of times people hide parts of themselves from their spouse. Like like I talked about this a lot of times before, but men will be attracted to women and pretend like they no longer see those women when their wife is around, or when they, like attractive women is still an attractive woman. But because we have this commitment, it now is supposed to give us like a blinders that we no longer can see these people. We can't comment on it. We can't think none of those things at that point. And in order for the relationship to last, it's going to require you to be able to talk to your partner and they know, like, yeah, you're attracted to the actual type. Yeah, it is, but it is what it is, and
Uh,
it not become a huge issue. I I think that those relationships probably fail more so due to honesty than just attractiveness. Like it's a multitude of issues that fall into.